Good morning, everyone, and welcome to
Recording in progress.
Good morning. Welcome to the Truckee Meadows Water Authority meeting for June 18th, 2025, and it is 10 o'clock on Wednesday. And we will begin, Madam Clerk, with calling the roll, please.
Here.
Present.
Here.
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 Present.
All right, thank you. And Andy, since you've distinguished yourself so much, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
In his radio voice, right?
In the radio voice, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Okay. A few more tries, Andy, and you'll really have it down. So, all right. Well, we're going to start this morning with public comment. And Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
I do not have any comment at this. No public comment.
All right, thank you so much. And we'll turn now to board comments and acknowledgements. And let me turn it over to our general manager.
Thank you, Chair Dewar. So I wanted to recognize, we all want to recognize Andy Gebhardt this morning. Andy, I'll just start with a few introductory comments and then turn it over to the board. But Andy has dedicated over 38 years of his life to this community. He's been involved in nearly every aspect of the utility. He began his career with Sierra Pacific Power Company as a meter reader in 1987 and quickly ascended through the ranks and became a water treatment plant operator and foreman. In 2002, Andy bet on himself, switched career paths to join the customer service department of what was then the recently formed TMWA. In that role, he led the conservation staff, customer service representatives, as well as field and meter services. Andy ascended the ranks from supervisor to manager and ultimately the director of customer relations. During this time, he also started working with TMWA's communications team and has been the voice of TMWA on TV and radio for many years, while skillfully guiding TMWA's public relations team. From 2017 to 2021, Andy switched back to operations and became the director of the department he once worked in as an operator. And since 2022, Andy has been the director of distribution. Along the way, Andy has mentored countless TMWA employees, and that will be one of Andy's most impactful legacies. Andy's experienced numerous events at TMWA, including the start of TMWA in 2001, the earthquakes in 2008, the merger with the county and Stimgid systems, the worst drought of record in 2015, implementation of the Truckee River Operating Agreement, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Andy's keen insight and wisdom and genuine care for TMWA, its customers, and employees always shines through. Andy epitomizes TMWA's vision of enhancing the quality of life in the Truckee Meadows by providing exceptional customer-focused water service. He has given all of us an excellent example to follow. He's been an absolute pleasure to work with and will be deeply missed. I know I speak for everyone at TMWA when I say it has been an honor to work with Andy. I also want to recognize and thank his wife, Carol, for 38 years of dealing with Andy being gone on nights, weekends, working in the treatment plant, or during emergencies. And finally, we wish Andy, Carol, and their sons Brandon and Damon and daughter-in-law Liz all the best. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Wow. Well, Andy, you know, your career speaks for itself, and it's very hard to add any embellishments or, you know, accolades to what's been said. But the only thing that I think that our director missed was your iconic status at our annual picnic. And if it was not for you, I don't know that it would even come off, never mind so well. And I want to just mention on a personal note that I think that you may have been one of the very first employees I met at TMWA, one of the very first, even maybe before the manager at the time. This is over 10 years ago. And you made such an indelible impression on me. I mean, just your personality. And I think all of the dry stuff about your career, you know, the numbers, the dates and all of that, it really doesn't get to the essence of Andy. And I don't know that anyone could, but I think that whenever I think of you, I think of an incredibly cheerful person, incredibly optimistic, incredibly friendly. And I mean, that's one reason you become the face of TMWA, is it's a very natural role for you. I mean, it's part of your personality to be that guy. So you've made my, now going on 11 years of TMWA amazing. Just seeing you standing there, participating, answering questions. And of course, your voice is unmatched. And even if that's what you do for the rest of your career after you retire, is announcing or radio or filling in, probably even outshine some of your accomplishments that have already happened. So it's been a real pleasure having you on board, setting a standard, being a mentor, and being a lead, a manager. You've done all the jobs. And now you really do deserve some time in the sun, although with the sunscreen, of course, given your complexion, but you do deserve some time off. And we really appreciate what you've done. I know some of the other board members have some words too that they'd like to share. I don't know, Ms. Andriola, any further comments?
Well, I'll just echo
Our vice chair?
what everyone has already shared. And yeah, you're a force to be reckoned with, right? Like just the fact that you are, your stature is pronounced, and the fact that your personality matches that, and in a humble way. I think that juxtaposition is really interesting, and I know that you have been very welcoming and have certainly made my, beginning tenure here very appreciative. And the fact that I too, on a personal note, would like to share even some of the things that we did with TMWA, with going to some folks in my district who had some major concerns, and really being a big part of that is greatly appreciated. So you're definitely leaving an incredible mark, big shoes to follow. But I do look forward to hearing and getting feedback of where you'll be in terms of a station. You're going to DJ. I don't know where you're going to be, but make sure that we know so I can tune in and say, oh, there he is. So, and thanks for giving the opportunity to him to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't think I've ever heard that in a radio voice. So thank you for that memory as well. But congratulations to your family for all their support and for really making a difference in our community. Thank you.
Yeah, that pledge actually gave me chills. So, would anyone else like to? Okay, let me go with Ms. Hill.
Andy, I'm so excited for you and your retirement, but to follow my colleagues and what they were saying about how you make people feel, I was thinking of that Maya Angelou quote. It doesn't matter what you did, what you said, it matters how you made people feel. And I think that you have done that through your personal relationships with certainly the board and other staff members, but also with the community and your commitment to customer service. That really shows that you're just really want to make sure that our customers understand that we feel what they need and that we are trying to help them. And that is true public service, your commitment to this community. And so thank you so much. And I'm really excited for the next phase of your life. And it's been an honor to work with you.
All right, let me turn to Sparks. Yeah, Mr. Anderson, please.
Thank you. So, Andy, it's been a true pleasure, and I will probably always think of you as the voice of TMWA. As far back as I can remember, that's the voice that I think of. But with that, I actually have a proclamation from the Mayor and City Council of Sparks. I'll save you all the whereases, but there are a few things I do want to read, simply because I think it shows just a little bit of who you are above and beyond what has already been said. So the first is, whereas during the worst drought on record in 2015, Andy's calm, thoughtful, deliberate demeanor were vital as he took on a key role in shepherding TMWA and this community through that drought. Whereas Andy holds the highest level certifications for both drinking water treatment and distribution and numerous others, reflecting his lifelong dedication to the highest standards of his profession. And whereas Andy Gephardt's contributions have left an indelible mark on the city of Sparks through his service at TMWA, through his wisdom, empathy, and common sense approach that will be sorely missed by colleagues and the community alike. Now, therefore, Ed Lawson and the entire city council do hereby proclaim Andy Gephardt Day.
Yay.
Is this where he says, thank you very much?
Yes, pretty much. And he'll
He's
especially.
gonna do it.
What?
Oh, I'm gonna come down there.
Yeah, well, I was gonna, while you're coming down and thinking about saying thank you, before you do, two things. One, we have a little gift for you. And number two, I really think we should get a picture. And I see some photographers in the audience. So is that okay? So let me bring this down for you. And then let me ask the board if they'd like to join. It's a little awkward, but we can kind of get set up here. I want you know what's in there?
No.
No? Okay.
Hey, Mr. Martinez. How are you? It's new and exciting. One foot in front of the other. Don't go backwards.
That was just one and done.
He's professional.
So, Andy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Blinking.
All right, for the record, Andy Gephardt.
Okay.
In case we weren't aware, I don't believe I have to turn this to green. I think you serve on TMWA, to serve for TMWA. First time I presented in front of this board was in 2002. And it's been great. My relationship with the board has been tremendous, with the exception of maybe that Goldman Sachs debacle. I wasn't too happy with the city of Reno for a while, but we'll forget about that. No, you know, the board has always had our back, and that's a rare thing when, and you know, take no offense to this, but when public officials actually have the back of the staff that they're tasked to support, that means the world to that staff. When we know that you understand our knowledge and expertise, that you can provide leadership without meddling, without getting involved into the weeds, and you've done that for, you know, since 2001. And that has been, that has made what TMWA is. You know, that's why we are successful. We are successful because of our staff, because of our expertise, and because the board has been there to help us, guide us, and provide the help and the leadership. And so for that, I thank you. I really do. I appreciate everything that has happened for me throughout the years. And it is a bittersweet day, obviously, as you can imagine. 38 years working for a utility is a long time. Roy and Craig and Stan and Ted, those are the four people that have been here longer than me. I don't know what they're waiting for, but they should retire. They should take this opportunity and ride off in the sunset as well. I tried to outlast them. I could not. So I just want to thank everybody at TMWA. Like I said, it's been a privilege to work for TMWA, not a burden. And I will miss you all. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Andy. You told him he has to open the present, yeah.
I wonder what this could be.
Well, exactly. Apparently it's become a tradition.
Let's see. It's a clock.
Yeah. Yeah, we want, yeah, thank you. Yeah,
All right? There's
the
my-
better to measure your time with, so,
Yeah, my clock.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And I have a background in wrestling.
Oh, no.
And there's a tradition in wrestling on your final wrestling match, you take your shoes off and you leave them in the middle of the mat. I'm not going to take my shoes off. But I have my badge. And so here it is. I'm out.
Yeah, well, you might need that for a memento, but, or a random visit back, but thank you, Andy. Thank you so much. Okay, wow, deep breath. So are there any other comments or acknowledgements before we close out this chapter? Anything? Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to the much more mundane business of the day, which starts with approval of the agenda. So I am, thank you. And is there a second? Okay, so we've got a motion by Member Hill, and, excuse me, Member Andriola, and second by Member Hill. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. And now we're moving on to item 6, approval of the minutes of May 22nd, 2025 of the Board of Directors.
Move to approve.
All right, Mr. Second. All right, so we have a motion from Mr. Anderson, second from Ms. Andriola. Are there any changes or comments on the minutes? No. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And now we're moving on to item 7, which is an overview of the general manager's employment agreement and evaluation process. And it's a little bit complicated, and I've had some training sessions on this already. So we've asked Jessica and Justina to go over it in preparation for what happens on July 1 and then what happens in October, if I've got this right.
You got it
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Perfect. For the record, Jessica Atkinson. So just- All right, here we go. Okay, so last fall, when we were doing the general manager's performance evaluation, it spawned a lot of questions by the board of directors about salary increases, timelines, term of agreements, the different aspects that are covered under Mr. Zimmerman's contract. And so we thought it would be helpful to bring that information to you guys now in advance of what we call evaluation season to kind of make sure that you all have an understanding of the various elements. And like Chair Dewar said, it is complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. And so we thought it'd be worthwhile to take the time to go through each one of those. So I have a presentation today. Hopefully we can get through it. If you guys have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to stop me, or we can take questions at the end. But what I'm hoping to go over today is talk about the different elements of pay that are covered under the general manager contract. And that includes market step increases as well as performance-based pay increases. And then we'll also touch on the evaluation timelines. I'll give you a snapshot of what to expect for this year. And then we'll move into the term of his agreement. I'm sorry. Thank you. Then we'll move into the term of his agreements, and we will talk about the next steps that are related to the term of his agreement. So first, we'll review the salary adjustments. There's 2 types of salary adjustments that are provided for in the general manager employment agreement. The first one is what is referred to as a market step increase. This is not tied to performance. According to the agreement, Mr. Zimmerman's salary automatically adjusts in incremental steps each year on July 1st. These increases continue annually until he reaches the designated market step for his position. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but that happens this year. This provision was included in the employment agreement because when Jay-Z was initially hired into the position, he was hired less than what is considered market rate. He entered the wage band at a step 3.5 out of 6 steps. And at that time, it represented a 5% promotional increase from where he was at as the AGM. And so those that contributed to authoring the employment agreement wanted to make sure that during the term of the agreement, Mr. Zimmerman's salary would increase in order to get him to that market rate within a designated period of time. And then the second salary adjustment that's provided for in the contract is performance-based. And the agreement states that the board shall evaluate Mr. Zimmerman's performance and at its sole discretion may award a salary increase, which can be applied directly to base salary as a lump sum or a combination of the two, so long as it doesn't take him over a 10% max award each year. So next, we'll go through the history of the increases. This slide shows the market increases on the left and the performance-based increases on the right. These are, on the left side, the market increases. These are the annual step adjustments. Again, they were designed to bring Mr. Zimmerman's salary to the market rate by the end of this contract period. So as of this coming July, he'll reach that final market step. For us, it's the step 6. So this means starting in July of 26, after that, there will be no more automatic step increases because he will be at that top step. On the right side, we've outlined the performance-based increases. These are the ones that are discretionary. In July of 23, Mr. Zimmerman did not receive a separate performance-based increase, and that's because the market step increase at that particular time took up the whole 10%. So there was no additional amount that the board could award for performance. And then the following year, he received a 1% performance-based increase, kind of similar situation. The step increase took up about 9%, so it didn't leave the board a lot of room to provide a discretionary increase. And so looking ahead to this July, we're in a different spot because he's gonna hit that top step. And to get him to that top step, it's roughly a 4.75% increase, which then this year would give the board a much wider range of discretion if they chose to provide an increase. Could be up to 5.25%. And then looking ahead to October of 26, the board will either need to amend Mr. Zimmerman's current agreement or draft a new agreement, whether with Mr. Zimmerman or a new candidate. And that'll be a decision point that we'll make in the spring of 26, and I'll go through that in the steps. But that takes us through up to this July, and then 2026, there's not applicable on the market step because he's at the market step after this July, and performance-based increase will be to be determined because we're coming to the end of the term of his agreement. So for evaluation timelines, the agreement states the board shall evaluate Mr. Zimmerman's performance at least once annually. The evaluation must occur on or within 4 months after the end of the fiscal year. So for us, fiscal year ends on June 30th, which means the earliest the evaluation can occur is July 1st, with the latest being October 31st. So this window provides the board with some flexibility to schedule the evaluation at a time that aligns with availability and other organizational priorities. Generally, it's taken place in September, October, right around our strategic planning sessions. So this year, we plan on kicking things off during the August 20th board meeting. On that day, we'll present the evaluation process and timeline for board approval, along with the performance feedback form that will be used to gather input. The board can then provide any additional input to me so that we can make sure that that process is exactly as you hope for it to be. Following the meeting in August, then what we've traditionally done is the performance feedback survey is sent out to all of the board members and key stakeholders, those that directly report to Mr. Zimmerman. There's a period of time that they're able to fill that out. Then all the information is collected. We bring that back during the September board meeting. We present the survey responses, and that's the meeting that the board would actually hold the performance appraisal, where you guys would talk about his performance, appraise him, and at that meeting would be when the board could determine whether any additional pay for performance award would be provided. So to wrap up the presentation, I want to take the next 2 slides to kind of talk about the term of agreement. That kind of gets us through where we're at coming up for the performance evaluation. But for the term of agreement, because we are nearing the end of his contract, the initial term of agreement was from October 15th of 2022 through October 15th of 2024. And according to Section 5.1 of the employment agreement, unless either party provided written notice of their intent not to extend the agreement by May 31st of 2024, the contract would be automatically extended. So while the term automatically extended is used, it's important to note that this clause included a clear opt-out provision that either party could have elected not to extend. That's not what happened. On May 23rd, the board approved allowing the automatic extension to proceed, and as a result, the agreement was extended through October 15th of 2026. So with this extension now in place, the next major milestone is the potential renewal of the agreement, which would require the parties to meet and confer no later than May 31st of 2026, so spring of next year, to determine whether an amendment will be negotiated or if other actions will be taken regarding the general manager position. So this sets the stage for important discussions and decisions in the coming year. And this is what that could look like. Key milestones and decision points in 2026. I would expect in April or May that the board will determine the next steps. This includes deciding whether to negotiate an amendment to Mr. Zimmerman's current agreement or pursue other options, such as initiating a leadership transition plan and conducting an executive search. Then once that decision's been made, in May or June, we'll seek board input on several important elements of the general manager's employment agreement or potential amendment. So these could include things such as the terms of the agreement, what does the board think needs to be included in those terms, the length of the agreement, the performance evaluation process, salary increases, and timelines for each of those things. And then once we have that information, then in June or July, based on direction provided by the board, we would either move forward with a negotiating amendment to Mr. Zimmerman's agreement or begin the process to conduct an executive search. So those are the steps that are designed to ensure that there's ample time for the board to make informed strategic decisions and that we are able to have time to be responsive to it and pursue whatever direction the board desires. So a lot of moving parts. Hopefully I covered kind of the main points, but with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Atkinson. I want to compliment you on slide 4. I think slide 4 really put it together, and if you could show that slide again. That balanced the market increase with the performance-based increase, and we could kind of see how those two things are related. And I thought it was incredibly helpful to understand the whole contract. Number 2, I just wanted to mention that myself and Ms. Andriola met with you and Justina about the entire process. And the one thing that I would like to see altered a bit is the how the contract comes together with the performance review. What we had discussed was that all of this is taking place in spring and summer of 2026, but the review is not till October of 2026. And what I would like to consider and get some other board input on is, I want to just recap, the contract that exists ends when?
So it terms in October 15th of 2026, but the decision point would be by May of 26. The board would need to determine, and both parties, if they want to negotiate an amendment to the agreement or move in a different direction. So really, May is our next kind of by May key decision point.
But, and as we discussed, how do we change that? How do we get this process more synced up with the review? Because I think the review is what drives the contract, not the contract driving the review. And we want to give good input, and then everyone can make a decision, both the board and Mr. Zimmerman, as to the go forward. This way, it's very disconnected. And so do you have some thoughts on how to change this or sync it up?
Yeah, so hearing that, what I would plan on doing is that May, June of 2026, once the board determines the direction that they want to go, as far as negotiating with Mr. Zimmerman or going in a different direction, that following board meeting, we would ask the board for their feedback on terms. And exactly what you're talking about would be a term. We could come back with a recommendation at that point in time of what that could look like to get those synced up.
So we wouldn't do the sync up process till after in spring of 2026?
That would not be my recommendation, because right now the contract really lays out the timelines that need to happen
Right.
for the evaluation. And so this would be the last evaluation that would be within those contractual terms. So before another evaluation happens after this July, we would be in potentially a new agreement, and we could iron out those terms and
So
clarify
that's what I want to
timelines.
understand. I mean, you said the evaluation this July, but we're not doing an evaluation this July.
Sorry,
doing,
July kicks off our evaluation season.
Season.
So August is when I would come back with this year's performance evaluation process for Mr. Zimmerman. And then following that August meeting, assuming that everything's approved, then we would open the survey, everybody would
Right.
collect, provide their responses. September is when the board would
Right.
do their performance evaluation on Mr. Zimmerman.
Right.
And then we would close out for this past fiscal year. And then before another evaluation cycle happens, we will
Yeah.
be in new terms, and we can.
Where will we establish in new terms? In September?
In the new contract.
So
mean-
so my recommendation is that in April or May, we bring back to the board, do you want to work with Jay-Z and negotiate an amendment, move in a different direction? That's decision point one. Once that's decided, then the next meeting, what is proposed is we would come back to the board and say, all the various terms within the general manager employment agreement, what terms do you guys want to make sure are included, not included? How do you want those defined so that whoever is identified as being responsible for negotiating those terms has the board's collective feedback and input to include those in a future iteration of an employment agreement?
Okay, so even though it says June, July 2026 negotiate agreement, you're saying we wouldn't actually do that. We would take the period from then until October of 2026 or September 2026 to, what I want to do is have the contract either coterminous with the review or just after. So this is the missing step. Where does that
Yes,
happen?
so that would be in May and June, when you identify
Yeah.
the terms that are important to you, then that would be information that would be collected and noted so
Okay.
that whoever's negotiating the contract, when they're
Yeah.
looking at the term and
But
the
we wouldn't
sequence.
be giving notice in May,
So according to
the current
the current
agreement.
agreement in May is a decision point for the board if whether or not they want to.
I know, but what I'm trying to do is shift that. So I guess what I'd like to hear from the board, but what's complicated about this is making that decision if we want to continue with John in May, prior to the review in September. And that's what I think is, that we should amend. And, you know, I listened hard during we spent, I don't know, an hour or 2 hours going over all of this. And that's, you know, what I'd like to see changed. And I think that there's nothing wrong with doing a midterm change and syncing up these dates better. But let me stop talking and let me hear from others if you do understand what I'm trying to get at.
And may I chime in? I
Yeah.
want to make sure that we understand this was agendized for an informational only item.
Yeah.
It's not an
Okay.
action only item.
But we could give some general concepts.
So if you
direction.
want to have it to come back in another board meeting
Yeah.
to make those changes or recommend those changes, that's what I would recommend.
I don't
'Cause
even
we
know if we
also-
need any changes, so.
We also didn't provide any notification to Mr. Zimmerman that
Right.
we were doing the discussion on him today. So I just wanted to put that on. the
Well, that was actually the first thing I was going to ask when you started. I was going to say, do we give any notification to John? But we're not really talking about John.
Nope.
And we're talking about a process.
Yep.
And so that's, I just, you know, it took me quite a while to understand it. And I think any contract that's this level of complicated, where we all serve on other boards and they're not this level of complicated, I want to, as I mentioned to you both, I want to simplify this and streamline it as much as possible. But I also want to sync up our decision points with our evaluation time. So let me open it up. And I think I had Ms. Hill and then Ms. Andriola, or reverse from Ms. Andriola.
I would just, thank you,
Yeah.
Chair Dürr, for leading the discussion, and this is a discussion. And so I think hearing that, you know, legal is familiar with what the objective is and getting things in sync, and Ms. Atkins is hearing this. I think having them come back and give us a proposal would be the best.
Yeah.
Because there is some complexity in terms of how things are laid out. And I think in the spirit of letting the folks who are going to craft what they would do in terms of recommending, syncing this, I do agree that the performance is important to have as a touch point prior to the renewal. I think that that's a pretty common practice. So I think just in the spirit of letting the experts do what they
Yeah.
do best and give us a draft would be helpful.
Yeah.
If you see that that's something that's amenable to you, Justina, and you, that's just my recommendation
And then
for
Ms. Hill?
discussion.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm open to that proposal, so we can see what the recommendation is. And I'm back on slide 6. I just, when you collect the responses, I was just hoping, and I don't remember because we do too many of these, but could you do the average of the board score separate for us from the other constituents that you survey, just so we know what the board score is separately? That's my only comment on that, but I look forward to seeing that recommendation because I hear the chairwoman, we want to make sure if we're renewing the contract that we're all on the same page as to where the performance is. But
And then,
I
like-
also switching the contract midstream isn't
Right.
fair. I even though it seems really weird that we did it this way, but
Well, I don't think any of us actually did it this way. I think the people that negotiated this are not even on the board anymore. So that's one thing too, that it was 3 years ago, essentially, 2.5 years ago, and they were trying to, get at some issues that were important at that time, and now we're sort of going into regular order. And so we're just wanting to, so my goal is to, now that we're through the market process, is to streamline this and sync up the decision of retention with the performance review. That's my main goal. And also awarding any rate increase, bonus, however it's structured, have all those things sort of come together. And I love your idea, Ms. Hill, about summarizing the various scores, because we also didn't just do that at some other reviews, and I think it's really important.
because the board's score, as I am being taught through all this, is the most important because he is our direct report. And so just making sure that we know what our average scores are, that would be great. But yes, I just don't know the complexities of changing a contract. That's
We
my
don't
only
know.
concern.
Yeah.
So they will have to tell us
Absolutely.
what that looks like,
Yeah.
and John will
Anyone
have to
down
be part
here?
of that.
Yeah, Ms. Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Very informative. My question has to do, I have two questions, with the budget. So how, when we are preparing the budget, do we incorporate 5.25% or whatever the step performance base is going to be? Is that already built into the budget? So when we get to September, it's already in there?
So,
Do we budget up to the max amount?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and then my other, what are we trying to fix with this process? And what, is it not working? Is there something that has come up that is a challenge? I understand the ultimate goal, but what isn't working now?
I don't know that anything's not working now, other than because the sequencing is off when the various milestones occur. It always kind of creates these questions because they don't all happen together. So
Sure.
when did a market increase happen? When does the board get award performance for pay? When do the evaluations? Because it's kind of, they're not all together. It just creates a lot of
But
questions.
I think to Commissioner or Member Hill's point, there's nothing that you would necessarily recommend that we do right now. We would get through this contract and then we would try and change it moving forward.
That you are correct. My recommendation would be is in the beginning of next year, next spring, is we would start lining ourselves out to meet the contractual obligations as far as determining direction. And then once we have that direction, bringing back a recommendation, and then also for further discussion with the board, additional terms. And then once that information is on the table, those that are negotiating, whether it's an amendment or potentially executive search, understand the collective sentiment of the board as far as what the next contract should look like, sequencing, timing, that kind of stuff.
Understood. Thank you.
And then to say again, this contract goes through, we're not dealing with the contract now or even in September. I mean, we did that already.
Correct.
In the May, June timeframe,
Yes,
or May, I guess I want to say.
yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
so the contract's set, so just so we're clear. But what we're talking about is, and just to help address your question too, Ms. Taylor, you might have heard at the beginning, they said that he was quite below what they called the market rate. And so there was these two moving pieces and they're done at different times. And so that's became confusing to us when we could only last time in October of '24, we could only give a 1%. A lot of us were kind of confused about that. You know, we didn't understand that we were tied to the 10% overall. And so it was a learning curve for all of us, really. I mean, it really was. Because again, we didn't negotiate this part. Most of the people on the board did not participate in that process. We voted on it, and not even everybody here, only about a quarter of us voted on it, maybe one or two of us. So, you know, it was pretty new to most of us. So, okay. Well, thank you. I guess we don't have to vote or anything. I mean, that you understand what we're trying, our goals. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the heads up. And I know our next step. So July 1, though, I think this is important. July 1, John will get this 4.25, I think it was.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so we all know that.
Yep.
And then those automatic increases will stop.
Done.
And then it will shift to fully performance-based.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. You got
Very
it.
good. Okay. Well, any further conversation about this? No, see none. We're going to move over to item 8. And this is a discussion and possible authorization to enter in, oh, I'm sorry. Did someone say? Enter into a second amendment to the joint funding agreement with the state of Nevada, Washoe County, and our cities, including Fernley, to fund Nevada's share of the Federal Water Master's annual Truckee River operating agreement expenses for like the next 5 years. Okay.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Cara Steelan, Senior Hydrologist and Watershed Coordinator for the record. So we are asking for the board to enter into a second amendment to an existing funding agreement. For some background, the total administrative expenses for TROA are split between the U.S., state of Nevada, and state of California. Per TROA Section 2C2, Nevada's share of the administrative expenses of TROA is 40% of the total, with the U.S. paying another 40% and then California paying 20%. And so the Nevada portion for the fiscal year starting October 1st, 2025 is $775,000. That is the Water Master's fiscal year, not our fiscal year. And so the Nevada TROA parties are responsible for the Nevada share of those expenses, and those include TMWA, Washoe County, and the cities of Reno, Sparks, and Fernley. As has been negotiated by these parties based on water rights and the benefit of the agreement, TMWA pays 60% and each of the other parties pays 10%. So the joint funding agreement needs to be amended to continue with this funding structure. The second amendment to the joint funding agreement will cover Nevada's share of the TROA administration expenses for fiscal years beginning October 1st, 2025 through 2029. And prior to the next amendment, so it would be the third amendment of the agreement, the parties can revise and renegotiate the agreement if needed. And so we are again requesting that approval by the board to enter into the second amendment of this agreement.
Okay. Thank you, Cara. A couple questions. So TMWA itself doesn't pay anything, right? It's the cities.
We do pay. We pay 60%.
Well, you went over the totals. I thought you said the state of Nevada pays 40%. The
Yes, so it is
U.S.
confusing.
pays 40% and California pays 20%.
So the state of Nevada itself does not pay because they are not allowed to pay for interstate, water
Right, but
agreements.
are the cities of Reno, Sparks, and Fernley physically paying?
Yes, they each pay 10%.
That's where I was trying to get
Yes,
at.
and so this will come before each of your individual councils as well, and I believe your July meetings.
Okay. So then what were you meaning when you said TMWA pays 40%?
We pay 60% of the 40%. So
Okay.
it's confusing. We pay 60% of the Nevada share, which is 40% of the total administrative
Okay.
expenses. So I apologize for that confusion, but
60% of the Nevada share
correct.
is paid by TMWA.
Correct.
And then the cities are paying 10%, Reno, Sparks, and Fernley.
And Washoe County.
And Washoe County as entities are each paying 10%.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Questions, comments? Yes, Member Hill.
So this is an increase.
It's not an increase in the percentage that we're funding, but the budget continues to increase
The budget.
annually.
So just want to make sure you has TMWA reached out to each entity and let them know?
Yes, we had a meeting in May, and we all have received the Water Master's budget for the next 3 years, including the fiscal year we're in now. And so everyone is aware of
Okay,
the
so
budget.
Washoe County understands what we owe.
Staff is aware,
Okay,
yes.
just want to make sure before I agree to this. I feel like they should have told me that they were okay with it. So yes, we're good to go.
Thank you.
So do you know how much percentage increase it was?
Over last
Yeah.
year, I believe our share, the Nevada share was 750,000 in the last fiscal year, so it went up about 25,000, and it looks to be going up in the following fiscal year also about $25,000.
But I was wondering, do you know on percentage basis?
I don't know I could try to do the math in my head, but it's going
too.
to be wrong.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like a big percentage increase. Okay, other comments, questions about this one? And then, how often does this come up? Do we redo it every 5 years, or?
So we have historically done it every 3 years. We decided to, all parties agreed on a staff level to continue this with legal counsel for 5 years, just for ease of not having to bring it before all the councils and commissions.
Okay.
So it will come before the board again in 2029.
All right, would someone like to make a motion on item 8?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All right, Member Andriola with a second by Member Hill. Any final comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to move on to item 9, which is in fact a customer service update with Marcy Westlake and Amanda Philot. Could you say hi? Philot. Okay.
So interesting side note, Chair Durway, we're waiting. So Amanda has known Andy for half of her adult life.
Really? Okay. Okay, good.
Good morning. Marcy Westlake for the record. We have 3 really great success stories to share with you today. And we want to start with the first one, which is Service Line Warranties of America. In September of 2020, we encountered a situation involving a homeowner that was struggling to pay for the repair of their water line. And we had a neighbor that was very frustrated. The water was coming onto their property. This customer wanted us to do more and figure out what we could do to help him. The board requested that we find a solution. And so in doing so, we did our research. We went out and looked and found Service Line Warranties of America. They are backed by the National League of Cities. So we thought that that was a good choice for us. Currently, we have over 10,000 people that have signed up for this service line program. Over 2,900 of them have chosen multiple services. So in addition to their water line repair, they have chosen either the sewer line or indoor plumbing. The impact has been 472 claims have been put in, processed, with a savings of almost $800,000 for our customers. So we feel that this is a huge win for us, and it gives our customers an option, which they've never really had before. TMWA does not see any money from this program. It is completely, we just have partnered with them. That's it. So we just wanted to share with you our successes of this program. The next is, yep.
Okay, so let's start with this Service Line Warranties of America. So what year did you say it started?
We started it 2 years ago, so it.
Just 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago in August, we started it.
And then you have 10,000 customers. And do you know roughly how many customers we have in total?
We have about 140,000 customers.
Okay, so under 10%, maybe 7% of the customers have opted into this insurance.
Yes.
And when you said they really didn't have any other option, I think there are other companies that provide this assurance, but maybe I'm not correct.
No, there are, and we encouraged our customers to reach out to their homeowner's insurance to see if that's covered.
Yeah.
Typically, it's not,
Okay.
and so we have had that come back to us. We wanted to give our customers just an option.
Yeah.
That was it, and this this
An
was
easy option.
An easy option. And we always, always, always request that they do their due diligence, figure out what works best for you as a customer. And if it's your homeowner's insurance, great. If you can afford it, that's wonderful. But we just really wanted to give them an option, and that's really all that this is.
Now, as I understand it, there may be a price break too, the fact that a group of customers is considering it. Is that true or not true?
They gave us the set price for
Okay.
for our whole utility. So that was, it's $575 a month for our customers to get this insurance.
Gotcha. Okay. Is that $5.75?
Yes, $5.75 a
All
month.
right.
And Chair Dewar, just for perspective and context with Service Line, so they said that the Las Vegas Valley Water District, they didn't do an opt-in option. They just chose to get service for all of their customer base and put it in their rates. And so, based on Service Line Warranty's business model, that was a lower premium. So they paid less, but the customers didn't have a choice. They just put it in there because of the conservation strategies that Las Vegas has.
Gotcha.
And we did have that option as well. We could have chosen that if we chose to, but we didn't think that that was a good thing to slide that into our customers' rates. So we wanted to just give them an option.
Okay. All right. I know we have some questions. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for stopping on each item.
Yeah.
I have received so many phone calls about this. In fact, John and I were on the phone for a little bit, and I don't know where we're at on that, and I certainly don't want to bog down your presentation, but I do feel it's important. It's relevant to exactly what you're talking about. It's relevant to your point where Southern Nevada actually had it be part of what the rate that the customers were paying. But they put a TMWA logo. I'm sure you're aware of all of this. And they put a TMWA logo, and it looks, I've had calls from, and I'm sure you're aware of this, I've had calls from, I already pay for TMWA. Why are they wanting this? Isn't it covered? Well, then it's explained. I know, but they don't know that, right? It has a TMWA logo on it. Is this being endorsed by TMWA? What does TMWA get from it, to the chair's question earlier? So I don't know if there's an opportunity to respectfully ask. I have my own letter that I read a million times that never differentiated itself from TMWA. When you have the TMWA, when you have any organization's logo on your potential contract, because it's insurance, it is an automatic endorsement. And to the chair's question about are there other opportunities for whether it be your homeowner's insurance or other options that are out there, it doesn't appear that way. It looks like this is endorsed by TMWA or it's part of TMWA. And I just felt an obligation to bring that up. I'm sure you're aware of this, but I'm wondering if you could speak to either what you're looking at in terms of keeping people informed. And I know that it's a separate company, so, but at the same time, they're putting TMWA's logo on it. Did I say that 3 or 4 times? And I'm happy to continue to say that. I got it, and I was like, oh, I'm not aware of this, and hence I called John. So I wonder if you maybe could speak to some of those points.
So we did look into, it took us a long time to come to this conclusion of what we could offer our customers. And we do have information on our website that tells them, please do your due diligence and figure out what works best for you. That has been our message from the very beginning. When customers call, we've gotten emails, we get all kinds of things all the time from customers that are concerned, when they want to know what we're getting out of it. And honestly, we're getting nothing out of it other than we supply them with our addresses. It is something that we want our customers to really research for themselves, because we can't, it's insurance. And that's the bottom line is I can't decide for you what works best for you, but I know that it's an option, and that is what this is.
Is it possible maybe to talk about using TMWA's logo as a implied endorsement? Because that's what it looks like, or it looks like it's part of TMWA. And I think in terms of just getting ahead of the confusion is where I'm going with it. so not everybody has either an opportunity to make the phone calls. And then if you look at the time that's being spent, I wonder if there might be a proactive way to look at that. And that's where I'm going with this.
I can absolutely talk to them and see where we could, change things up a bit to make it not look so.
But the other companies, from a market standpoint of being competitive, the other companies aren't putting TMWA's logo. So see what I'm saying? It's a differentiation that I think at least could be explored. I really feel that there might be an opportunity for, and I'm not trying to put more work on anyone, believe me, but you're having to be reactive to things that maybe we could look at, even if they included in the letter that, this is an option or something. There's nothing that says that. I'm sure you've seen the letter. So I don't want to keep on this subject. I just felt it was important to bring up. And I really appreciate.
Well, Miss Andriola, you are not the only one. So I have also had calls. I think Miss Hill has had calls. And so we have both independently reached out to John with the very same point. I appreciate that the insurance is available, but I really have sort of a knee-jerk reaction with the TMWA endorsement of the insurance. Because, and I asked John, well, are we backing their insurance? What if they fail to pay a claim or there's a dispute between them and one of the customers? Are we in the middle of that? And he assured me, no. And I mean, he's got a background as a lawyer, so I'm sure, but it does read like that. And here's the issue, and I explained this to John earlier. In any of our agencies, and for my whole career, we have not endorsed any company for anything. I don't care if it's installing plumbing or electrical or cutting trees or doing anything that many people call me, who's a good person to do X. The best we've ever done from an organization is to give 3 names. If you're interested, here's 3 providers. But before I go on, let me turn to Ms. Hill. I know you have comments, and I'll come back to me.
Well, and I know we talked about this recently, actually, and I know that this was a board direction as to why we even have the logo on the piece. And I know our chair at the time was wanting to help people. And so I, first of all, don't want to discount that direction. And I think it's awesome that we have helped people. It's just the constant mailers. I think that's where I'm getting the feedback from people. It's just constant. And so I don't know what we do to talk to this vendor. And I think it's, I haven't looked at our website. I need to look at it. We're actually in front of me, but about what we've said about it. But I think addressing that this is a homeowner's responsibility, which most people don't know that. And then that TMWA is trying to be a partner by, proactively offering this service, and that we've, seen that there's, it can be helpful. But I know just at the county, we've dealt with this issue on it's on a separate life insurance issue, and it's run into some problems for us. So I just want to make sure that, I don't know, we're looking at all the pieces. It seems simple enough, but then I don't want it to look like, we're endorsing something that maybe someone didn't get a payout in the end, but it sounds like people are, and obviously Southern Nevada has used them for every customer, and maybe that's something we discuss as a board.
Yeah.
Because I don't know enough about water, like in my neighborhood in particular, because we are old neighborhood, it is a problem. So, I told my parents to sign up for it. Then my husband was like, no, I disagree. They could just pay for it outright. So don't sign up for it. And then my parents stopped signing up for it. And then they continue to get these like mailers of like, you're late on your payment. And so I think there's just got to be, I don't know, some in between way, and I don't have a suggestion. You're the expert here, but that's just the feedback I've been receiving.
So I have both things. So my water line broke before this assurance was ever available, so I paid the full price, and I have a very long line from where the curb is to my house, very long. So probably one of your bigger bills for a line replacement. Already lived the dream. On the other hand, we too get the constant mailers of signing up. And one of the things I talked to John is could we reduce that to annually or quarterly, so they're not sending these out constantly in this marketing spree? Because, I don't know about you, but our family feels harassed they feel like beleaguered, I guess. And we don't want that reaction, right? And so I talked to John about, is there an opt-out option where you can check a box and not get the mailers anymore? Is that something you could talk?
Yeah, no, I'll talk to them about that, because that's not an option today. I usually, if someone calls and they're very upset about it, I will reach out, please remove them from your mailing list, and they remove it immediately. So I have, I have that.
There's a way.
There is a way.
But we maybe could streamline it, automate it.
Streamline it. I
So
don't
it's
wanna be the
not,
go-between.
to Ms. Andriola's point, it's not landing on your
Yeah.
desk to do a thing.
Right.
Either to explain, which it sounds like there's a fair amount of explaining, or to apologize, or to justify, or to get something fixed. So I think we want to kind of streamline this in such a way that, it's less workload for you, more clear in the advertisements that this has nothing to do with TMWA. It's just an option. But as I understand, they do get the TMWA list of customers. That's how they get their mailing list. So other companies aren't. Is that, or no one's asked for that?
No one has ever asked for that. They do send out information. Other companies do send out information with TMWA's information on there.
Like what?
Just, they have our rules stated, and they do mention TMWA in their mailers as well. We've been dealing with this, honestly, since we began TMWA. And it has been, you can ask Andy, he's aware. This is something that we have always dealt with, that, typically they would address like elderly people, and then they would fear that it wasn't real. And so we have really dealt with this for a very long time.
So that's sort of like a scam, right?
Yes.
I mean, they're using fear to drive somebody to do something, and they're putting TMWA in the mix.
Nope, I will look into how we can change things.
Well, I think that'd be good. I don't know what specific direction to give you, but I think we want less mailers.
Okay.
We want an easy opt-out, and we want a disclosure right on the notice that this is not TMWA's offering, and TMWA has nothing to do with the company. I mean, does that make sense to what we're talking about?
I think that's
Ms. Taylor?
I just wanted a history question. We partner with them, not really, but why service line warranties if there's other companies that do this?
They approached us, and at the time, it was the perfect timing when we were directed to find an option for our customers. And when they approached us, it took us a while to finally sign the contract and go through with it. We did vet them. We talked to other utilities across the country that use them. We didn't have any reason not to go with them.
And I think another big point was this was endorsed by the National League of Cities, and they have a nationwide partnership with this entity.
And
what is the contract? I guess I didn't realize we have a contract.
we have a 5-year contract with them.
And what's the ask?
That we would supply them with the names of,
The
addresses
database, and then anything else?
No, that's it. That
That's
they would-
it.
They would supply our customers with,
And is it
This option.
exclusive contract, or?
yes.
So it says we're not supplying the database to anybody else?
No.
But they're not paying us to not do this?
They do not pay us anything.
Okay. So a lot of questions.
I just
Yeah.
have one.
One more, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, actually, one, I wanted to say thank you for working on this, because I have heard from people that have utilized the service and were thoroughly happy with it. Because, yeah, they were looking at thousands of dollars in repairs. And
Hey,
this
I'm raising
helped
my
them.
hand on that one.
Yeah, it helped them through this. So I want to say
Well,
thank
and
you.
just a
for
lot of
that.
people don't understand that it is their responsibility. And that's a frustrating piece, is people are shocked that this is on them to fix. So that was the reason.
Okay, and
But
go
then
ahead,
I would
Mr.
just
Anderson.
like to chime in as well. I think that maybe we need to rein in this company a bit, as far as, I truly believe that there should be a statement, maybe at the very top of their mailers, stating the fact that they're not a part of TMWA, that they're not endorsed by TMWA, that they just have an agreement to work with TMWA or something like that, whatever that looks like. But there has been, honestly, I think I've had more contacts about this program than water quality, about drought, or anything else over the last year. So I think the more we can help to clear that muddy area up, I think would be helpful.
And Ms. Angela, a final
Thanks.
question on this?
So I was just thinking about all the comments, because I think, to your point, they do a great job on just I must have a stack.
Marketing.
I mean, so kudos to them for continuing to, reach out, which starts making people wonder. But I really want to speak to the point that's already been raised, and that is most people don't even understand. They just don't. And I'm wondering if there might be an opportunity to look at having this discussion with comparing as we grow, I mean, look at the percentage. So 100,000 versus 10,000 customers. And I wonder if there isn't an opportunity to have the board come back with a discussion about looking at that. But in terms of how Southern Nevada does it, not to put an impact of cost on the consumer, but to actually step back. Because here's what you do a great job of reaching out to the customer and actually soliciting their feedback. And it's to that point that I'd like to just expand on. If we had an opportunity, TMWA had an opportunity to reach out to the customer and say, like, did you know something simple? And that even having the voice of the customers look at, being aware that there's this, not only could their homeowners, for instance, it's still cost. No matter which way we slice this pie, there's a cost involved, right? But I think that we might, as a board, look at some opportunities to the point where we have an exclusive 5-year contract, for instance, with an organization. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. The compliments of, I'm sure, the people who, what was the number, the 472 claims are testaments to their $5.75 or whatever it is, whatever it might be. And I think it's to that point of soliciting and maybe looking at getting feedback from the customers. It'll also be a opportunity to have people, understand that this is not covered.
Right.
I really believe that. Honestly, I didn't know. When I was like, oh, I called John. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh. So I wonder then getting some of that feedback and then having the board look at how we deal with that. Because if there's a contractual relationship, there should be a benefit. They're getting a database for free. And I know that it's a customer service opportunity, but as budgets become tighter, as revenue or funding becomes a creative way of looking at things, I think we should also be looking and exploring those opportunities to ensure the customer's whole, to ensure the customer has all the information, and to provide an opportunity to negotiate even something stronger, right? In terms of leveraging, whether it be 575 that could be brought down, and I'm making this up, I'll just use to a significantly reduced price.
Was a significant reduced price.
Okay,
to
so
put it
maybe
on
it'll be
everybody's-
575. I just think the board, I think it warrants some feedback. I think the public needs to be involved, and I think it's a discussion for the future for this board. So I'd like to just bring that up for consideration.
Ms. Hill, final comment on this, and
I
then
know,
we'll
we
hear
beat-
the other two good
Yeah,
examples.
I'm sorry, we have beat this.
No, it's okay.
Down. But I was also thinking along the same lines, so it's a 5-year exclusive. Maybe when we bring it back for discussion of the board, we look at all those options as well as a renegotiation and going out to bid, because to many members' points, they may be the best. We just want to make sure, and we want to make sure that we structure this for the future contract to meet all the needs that we're discussing. Now that we've learned a lot of lessons this round, which again, I think it's kind of great that we just did this because we know that customers are, needing this information. So kudos to staff for finding a solution, and now let's just make it better.
Yeah, okay. So you have part 2 and 3 of your presentation.
I do. So paperless billing. That is something that we have really worked hard at, and we recognize the financial impact for us in when we went live with our new customer information system. So we launched a concerted effort in 2022, and we really started expanding our program, trying to push people onto paperless. I am happy to say that today we're over 71,000 customers on paperless. 51% of our customers enjoy the benefit of getting a bill in their email. A savings for us of almost $560,000 a year in billing related costs. So we're still working on strategies in any way we can to, increase the adoption. We hope someday to get to 100%. Not sure that that's ever going to happen, but we do strive to get there. And we are far and above industry standard, and so that is a great thing for us. So we push people to get on the online portal so that they can get our information on AMI, which Amanda is going to present to you guys today.
So what's AMI?
Let Amanda answer that.
Hello, Amanda Filet for the record. AMI is the Advanced Metering Infrastructure Program that we have launched in June of 2019. Did you guys have any questions on the paperless billing?
Is this something different?
Yeah, this is a different.
Oh, we're
yeah.
switching topics.
Yes,
So
we
any
are.
comments on paperless? I know we're signed up. I think it's fantastic. I guess I'll just leave it at that. Anyone else?
Great job.
Okay, moving on to item 3.
Okay, our Advanced Metering Infrastructure Program was discussed back in 2018 when TMWA was operating on 3 different meter reading systems. So that discussion happened, and we signed a contract with Census in 2019, which included hiring a contractor to assist with our mass meter exchanges. We signed a contract for a 3-year program, which has turned into a 6-year program. We're hoping to complete that this year. And the reasons for that is the first reason was our old billing system did not accommodate mass meter exchanges. So at that perfect timing, we went with a new CIS system. And so we had to wait to implement that. But then came COVID at the same time. So with those challenges, it was very hard to procure materials for the project. Today, we have 132,000 AMI meters in the ground. We only have about 6,700 left to convert. TMWA personnel has attributed to approximately 18,000 of those meter exchanges throughout this process. Some of our goals for this project are providing customers with the opportunity to monitor and water their usage with this online portal. Many conservation efforts, reducing water waste identified by continuous usage that the customers will also be able to look at on their online portal. And one of the biggest things is improving efficiencies by reducing truck rolls and ensuring accurate billing. Do you have any questions for me?
So yeah, the first one is just, could you explain to all of us the difference between our current meters and AMI? Like what did AMI bring to the story?
Okay, so as mentioned, we had 3 different meter reading systems back in the earlier years. These meter reading systems required us to drive around with vehicles, taking personnel to drive around to each individual home and record those readings. We could only gather 1 reading per month, and that was all we had to look at.
It was limited.
It was limited to the 1 reading per month. So with AMI, it allows our reads to come through a tower that we can then collect from the office, and it provides hourly reading. And that's where we are able to look at continuous usage and leaks and things like that.
So the data is gathered remotely.
Correct.
It's beamed to the data collection portal.
Correct.
You don't have to have trucks driving up and down the street.
No.
So we're saving a lot of money there,
Yes.
presumably, and those people could do other jobs.
Yes.
And then you're saying that the other meter was a snapshot in time, and the next one had to be back to that one, so you couldn't change any kind of periods, unless, I don't know, maybe a house sold or something.
Yeah, so anytime a house sold or someone bought a new one, we would have to physically go out there and gather that reading so that we could either open up their bill or close out their
So
bill.
do an ending and opening
Mhm.
bill.
Mhm.
Whereas now you're saying it's like by the minute or by the hour, or how does it work?
So we have the ability to get an on-demand read, which means that these radios are 2-way radios, so they can talk to us and we can talk to them limitedly. But we can ask for a demand read, which means within a few moments, if that signal is strong, we can get a read immediately off the register. Otherwise, the radio transmits that data every hour, it records, and then transmits that data every 4 hours to the system.
It bulk uploads it
It bulk, yeah, correct.
every 4 hours.
Mhm.
And so in terms of leak detection, because everybody's got leaking something, I mean, to the points of older systems, even newer systems, you could actually tell it to do an instantaneous read and then do it 5 minutes later to see.
We could, yes.
And would can they trigger it if they're at your house trying to help you with a topic? Or do you have to do it back at the main office?
No, it is in the main office that you have to trigger that.
So they have to call you or someone and say, start the clock?
Correct. Or we can use our water conservation department that will actually go on site and help assist with that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Questions about this one? Yeah, please, Mr. Anderson.
On the data side, is there any way to look at, with all these systems being put in place, the amount of money in efficiencies, amount of gallons of water saved, or is there any way to put data to use and be able to share that story to our users and go, look, we've implemented this new program, here's what it's saved you in money, saved in water usage, or whatever those numbers could show? Is there any way we could monetize it, add, be able to figure it out to where we can show that to the community?
There is opportunity to look at the cost savings for truck rolls themselves actually going to the physical properties. For leaks and continuous usage, I'll have to look into, because we're already recording that data and we're using the portal to help us. So how I understand what customers are using that data to actually take action, I'll have to look into that.
I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
If we could do that, I think it'd be great. Then we can start sharing the story.
I think the most positive thing for us in this situation is that when a customer calls in and says, hey, I've got a leak, I don't know when it started, I can't tell, we can pull up the system, we can see the exact hour that leak started and give them that information. It started on Tuesday at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and it's gone through, we can see where you fixed it on Friday at 4. There's that information that now we can drill down into that to give our customers.
And did you say, have you already calculated the savings from personnel?
No.
But you are going to?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I 100% agree with Mr. Anderson. This is to you, John. I mean, and to the customer service conversation in general. I mean, people need to know we're constantly looking out for them. And this advanced metering information system is costly to install. But on the back end, we're saving. I'm sure you did all that analysis.
In the very beginning, yes.
Right. Right. And then there's a growth factor.
Right.
Right. So when would we produce this kind of information, John?
I think we had always been thinking about waiting until we're finalized with installing all the meters, just so all the customers are on the same page. And so that's what Marcy and her team have been looking at.
And you said this fall you'll be done.
Fingers crossed.
Okay. Is it again a meter, obtaining meters again? I mean, are they available?
No, so we are at the very end. Again, we only have about 6,700 left. And so with the average installs that we're doing is going to get us at the end of August. There are going to be a few customers, our large customers such as casinos, bigger units that have a larger meter because those meters are less accessible. And so this radio has to be out in the air in order to transmit a signal. And so, for example, because the Silver Legacy, their meter is in the middle of their building, on the fourth floor, not accessible. And so those are going to be the ones that I have to spend some time figuring out how we're going to get the same opportunity for those customers.
Yeah. Or you keep collecting by hand
Or we have
because
to keep
sometimes
collecting.
that last 1% is just too much.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Any other comments or questions on this? And does that end your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, very interesting stuff, very informative stuff. It's the kind of stuff, as elected officials, we're with the public. And these are the things they talk about, things like costs, efficiency, confusion, billing, and so on. And so I think that's why you're getting a lot of dialogue here from the board, because these are things we can really relate to, that the customers relate to, and that they're going to talk to us about. So, well done. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, and I gotta say, John, I think periodically we should hear from these folks. You know, maybe that's every 6 months or something, but they've probably got always new information to share with us. It looks like item 10 is our presentation of the 2025 legislative activities, bills passed, bills failed. And here we have Steph Morris.
Stephanie Morris for the record. Before I begin, I'm going to try to condense a wild session into 10 minutes. So we do track a number of bills. I tried to do the math before. I hope I got it right because I'm a lawyer, not an engineer. I think Leo is online. And I just wanted to give a big shout out because this is a big effort throughout the session. First to our subcommittee for giving us direction and listening to us drone on about different bills and explain the policy implications, to Sonia and Laura Rader and Leo, and then Dan Newbell, who did most of the heavy lifting with Leo this year. What we have in your packet is a staff report, and it's quite long in terms of, it's a table. This is showing the 51 bills, not all 51, 31. We tracked 51. There's 31 that passed. What we did in the last session was we give a summary and what the implications are. You'll see there's not a lot of implications for TMWA necessarily, because sometimes we're tracking just to make sure there are not implications. But we did summarize the bill. And the nice thing is in the packet and online for everybody, these are linked, and if you click it, it'll go right to the text language. So if you don't like the summary, you can look at the language yourself.
And before you go on, I just want to also give a shout out to our committee. So the committee was Ms. Hill, Member Hill. Oh, I haven't been talking in here close enough, I see. Mr. Anderson and myself. And we set up to meet weekly, but we ended up only having to meet about once a month. It seemed like, or twice a month sometimes, because the pace was very slow in the beginning. And you kept saying, nothing's happened. And so that was kind of unusual in comparison to other legislative sessions I've been through. But I just appreciated the committee being on standby and being willing, to either Zoom in or be present. It was very helpful, and we were able to give you some directions. So please proceed.
Okay, thank you. So again, there were 556 bills that became law, and we were tracking 51. Of those 556 bills, 87 were vetoed, so roughly 16%. Of the 51 that we were tracking, 31 became law, 10 were vetoed, and 10 just did not get out of committee.
Could you stop there? Were 10 of the 31 vetoed or 10 of the total 50? What are you saying?
We were tracking 51.
Right.
31 became law. Those are the
passed
31.
Is what you said, but became law?
Well, they can pass, but if they don't get signed, they don't become law.
But 31 were signed.
Became law. Those are the ones that are listed in this packet.
Gotcha.
Of the remaining 20, 10 were vetoed, and 10 just didn't go anywhere.
No committee. Okay.
Okay. So I promise not to bore you and go through all 31. So I just wanted to highlight a few at a very high level. AB 64, which is a change to the open meeting law. It's really not a big implication for TMWA. And since I've been involved with TMWA, that's how we treat open meeting or closed meetings, is that it's legal advice. It's not just a lawyer providing information. So that's essentially the change. It said, instead of a lawyer providing information, it says it's providing legal advice, and the deliberation is limited to that legal advice. And that is how we have always treated it. So it's just, in my opinion, clarity. It also has some limitations on remote locations, remote meetings. If you do not have a physical location, but because TMWA always has a physical location, those would not be applicable. And then there was, if you recall, a 3-minute public speaker requirement, and that did not pass. That got removed before that bill passed.
Okay, that said everyone had to have 3 minutes.
Correct.
Not 2 minutes, not 1 minute.
Not 5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then one more question on these closed meetings. I have heard variously that in statute, you're supposed to take notes or keep minutes of those. Is that your understanding too?
I think that's a good question for your board counsel. And
okay.
I can check with the open meeting law manual. I've heard both, to keep notes. And then with legal advice, sometimes we recommend you do not keep notes because we are talking about legal matters that
Right.
we don't want confidentiality to be released. So I can double check and get back to
Okay,
you on
that'd be
exactly
great.
what the
I
requirements
want to
are.
make sure we're in compliance with whatever's required. Okay, continue on.
AB 104, which we've talked to you all about a lot, and the legislative subcommittee talked about a lot. So that did pass. I think just highlighting a couple key things there is the most important thing, I think, for TMWA was that it was setting a policy for increasing the use of water reuse. And so it's setting forth a path for a direct potable reuse and potentially some statutes. So right now we have indirect potable, like the American Flat Project proposes. This would be hopefully new regulations for direct potable reuse to increase the water reuse. The other thing is, not particularly for TMWA, but for our region, is that it does allow for water quality variances under the Clean Water Act, which are already allowed, but it specifically allows NDEP to grant those, and that can be important for wastewater discharges. SB 36, I'm going to handle this one right after. This is a groundwater retirement, and it was building on some previous statutes that were passed in the last session. The language that is in SB 36 also appears in 104, and what it does is it creates a voluntary market approach, and it requires the state engineer to retire those water rights, that groundwater rights that are purchased, and they can no longer be reappropriated. And then SB 260, this is an air quality. This one is interesting. It is protecting workers from wildfire smoke. And we're going to be tracking this as the Division of Industrial Relations is developing regulations. A key component of that is going to be about employers like TMWA communicating. So we don't know exactly what this is going to look like, and there's likely to be exemptions for public health and safety, which may apply to some TMWA workers. And so we will be tracking those regulations to see how and when we need to comply with them. And then finally, SB 276, we also talked a lot about this. This is really, in large part was kind of already occurring, but it's reporting, and TMWA does have this obligation to report unauthorized diversions or hazardous waste that's dumped if they are aware of it to NDEP. NDEP tracks it. NDEP has a requirement now to reach out to any tribes that may be affected by those kinds of discharges. And then in addition, it also prevents, it requires agencies that have information on those types of spills to provide that public information to any tribe that requests it. And it prevents any agreement that would prevent the disclosure of that information to the tribes, that public information. It does have a pretty broad exception, which is that it doesn't require the producing attorney-client privilege or work product information. So I know that's really quick summary of everything, but I'm happy to answer.
That was super
any
quick.
questions.
Any questions from anyone? Okay, I guess the only question I have, and I think you may not know, but with the change from the indirect to direct reuse, our joint project at American Flat, do we go reconfigure that? I mean, DEP will have to make rules, right, to do this?
Yeah, that's probably an agenda item in the future, but because we don't even have those regulations yet,
Gotcha.
that's really not an option for us
I
at
just
this
wondered
point.
if our staff are thinking about that. Is that something we're thinking about?
Thinking about switching American Flat to direct
Yeah.
potable reuse? No.
We're not.
No, it's indirect potable reuse. I think, and Danny Rotter can speak to it better. I think there are some physical construction that's going to happen to allow that to be easier in the future, but nothing right now.
Danny Router for the record. One of the things we have done since the beginning, forward as we always are doing, thinking forward to another expansion beyond the 2 million gallons a day, thinking that DPR would be here by then. So we've prepared everything, planned for it, made space, thought of how we might do that if and when that time comes.
Okay.
So
the first
not
phase,
boxing ourselves into a corner.
we would continue piping the water 12 miles north, injecting it underground, reserving it out. But going forward, we could just treat it on site, not do that whole process, and redistribute it for drinking water, and you would have all of the treatment stuff on site at the wastewater plant?
That is a possibility.
Okay.
Basically keeping our options open so that when you look at, okay, what would that mean for operational costs? What would that mean for additional capital costs? What's the
Well, it
most
seems like
efficient way
saving
to
a
do
lot.
it?
It seems like saving a tremendous amount of money, but
Yeah, once you put the pipe in though, you put the pipe.
we're done.
So it's,
Okay.
yeah.
I just would say that for direct potable reuse, I think we're looking at it for lots of other areas too, and it's a really important tool for managing regional wastewater in a way that's affordable for customers. So it has a much broader benefit.
Yeah.
One final thing. Crawl, walk, run.
Okay.
DPR is running. We need to get to walking before we start running.
Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. It was an interesting session, and we're always glad when it's over, right? Did you want to say something, Ms. Hill? You were leaning in?
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you to the team.
Yeah.
I always learn a lot during every session, and so
Super
I appreciate the
educational.
education, and
Yeah.
it's a joy to serve on the legislative committee. So
Yeah.
thank you for the
Agree.
opportunity from the board to serve.
Agree. All right. So now we are going to turn ourselves to item 11, which is discussion and action on nomination and election of chair and vice chair, and request board adoption of a resolution 336. I think everyone knows we went to a process, we amended our bylaws to set up a rotational process for the chair and vice chair, where all of the participants can have an opportunity to manage the board and serve in these roles. So it's been a pleasure to be the chair. It was actually a dream come true. I'm going to be real honest. Having worked in water and to have this kind of opportunity was really remarkable, to kind of put a lot of what I've done in the past into the present and be able to work with such an amazing team, which I have been doing for all the 10 years before. But, just getting a different perspective. I always sought out briefings, even when I wasn't chair or vice chair, from the staff, and learned a lot as we've been through this process. But it's my pleasure at this point to be able to turn over the gavel. So if there's no further comments, I'd like to make a recommendation. Yeah.
I just appreciate your service,
Oh.
Madam Chair, and thank you for your advocacy for the rotation, because I think every regional board should have that. And I think that it's really important that we make sure that everyone has a chance to be in leadership on these boards.
Yeah.
And so thank you for all the things that you've led, and I know you'll continue to
Yeah.
do so.
Well, I'm here. I'm
as
not
a
going
member.
anywhere. I mean, I'm not suddenly sitting back and not asking questions or something. But I'm going to keep being me. But it's one of my favorite boards. What can I say? Because I can sink my teeth into it. But all that said, I would like to make a recommendation for our next chair and vice chair. And I would like to recommend my vice chair, Claire Andriola, Commissioner, to take on the chair role. And I'd like to recommend Mr. Paul Anderson from Sparks to take on the vice chair role. And I've had an opportunity to work with both of them. I know they'll do an outstanding job. So that would be my motion.
Second.
So, before anyone else's name could get mentioned. Okay. All right. Well, with that, I've got a motion and a second for Ms. Andriola and Mr. Anderson to step up onto these roles. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion passes unanimously. And I'll hand the gavel over as soon as we adjourn, which is why it is designed that way. I have served on some boards where they have elections right up front. You have done no prep. You have not even met really with the director, and suddenly you're supposed to run the meeting. And I have changed that on almost every board I've been on to give the people a chance to come up to speed before they're running their first meeting. So Congratulations. Looking forward to serving with both of you.
Can I
And,
say thank you?
oh, sure,
Really quick.
please.
I too want to thank you because for all of us, I think I've known you for about 28 years. And you were in water even then.
Yeah.
And so thank you for doing a great job and thank you for everything. And you're not going anywhere, as
No.
you put it. So we'll see you.
Yeah.
But thank you. And thank you to the board.
Now, in
Thank
a
you.
year and a half, I am going somewhere. And that is no longer being elected. But until then, here we are. So thank you. Thank you, Clara. I didn't realize it was 28 years. Okay, kind of, almost.
We were children.
Yeah,
We
okay.
were just kindergarten.
All right, Mr. Anderson, did you have something?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to say, Chair Dewar, it's
Yeah.
been a pleasure. Thank you so very much for your leadership, and I appreciate the nomination
Oh,
and
you
vote
bet.
of the board as well. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, terrific. And then moving on, we'll turn to the general manager for his report under item 12.
Thank you, Chair Dewar. So the July board meeting will be canceled. The water resource plan, the comments on the draft plan, we'd like to get back from the board by July 18th. And so I think Sonia's put an invite on your calendar for that. And if we're open to it, if the board members want to schedule one-on-one meetings to cover anything related to the water resource plan, we can do that, or feel free to call me and we can do that. August 2nd is the TMWA annual employee picnic. So we look forward to having all of you out there. It's a great time.
What's the date, did you say, John?
August 2nd.
August, I didn't have that. I kept looking at my calendar.
Andy
trying to-
will come back to help out with the barbecue one last time.
Really?
Yeah, which will probably be every year, hopefully. And then lastly, Chair Dewar, echo the comments of the board. Thank you. It's been great to get to work with you over the last year, so appreciate it.
Oh, great.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I love the picnic. It's amazing. When, it usually starts at what, 10:30 or something? 11? Okay. 11 to 3, is that, or, okay, great. And so I hope everyone can make it. For those of you who haven't been at one of these before, they're very fun. Bring your kids, bring your spouses, bring your friends. It's a really, and your appetite, really good food. And there was one other thing I wanted to mention, John. It was about, I think, the water plan you just mentioned. So you want our board comments back by
July 18th.
July 18th, okay.
And then we'll bring back,
And you sent us a draft doc that's in doc form or PDF?
I sent it to you in PDF.
Yeah. Is it possible to get it in doc form, so if there is any change, we could just type something?
I will
Check in with the team.
I will check.
If it's not possible, that's okay. I mean, I have a PDF editor too. So. Okay. All righty. Not that I'm planning any changes, frankly, because I have to say, this water plan is very good, and it takes in climate change. I mean, it's very proactive. And one other thing, we began a policy discussion some time ago about whether TMWA should just, if you show up with your water rights and you can meet the technical needs, they can serve them back to you, whether we should evaluate some needs, some uses as too high for our region. We've talked about, the classic example is a water bottling plant. Do we, in the driest state in the nation, want to be encouraging water bottling plant using our local water? Probably not. So it's an example, but there are other examples of high water use. And my understanding is both the water plan will address it, and I think you're planning a special item on that too. Is that correct?
so the water resource plan currently has recommended actions as far as working with the Governor's Office of Economic Development, EDON, and regional planning on looking at those types of higher water users and how to evaluate them better so that each of the governments, when they're deciding to approve them, know the impact on water. But so that would be with inside the water resource plan.
Mm-hmm. Is there something in there too, John, about, we recently had a question on a project in the North Valleys about who would serve. So originally they were set up to have TMWA serve. Then they decided, well, they'll have Great Basin serve. Is there anything in the water plan that speaks to that issue? Like who your water provider is?
Sure, and I'll look at Justina to make sure I'm not getting too outside the agenda item. But no, our water resource plan talks about, and when we look at consolidation of smaller systems, I think the way the current board policy is that we will look at it, we will assess it if those smaller water systems want to connect. Those are for existing. And then as far as also future water systems, again, we're analyzing and making sure we're paying attention to it. But ultimately, it's up to the developer on which way they want to go.
Gotcha. Okay, good. All right, well, very good. Well, so that's an assignment for all of us, is to take a peek at the water plan and send in your thoughts, if you have any. Or send in your thoughts that you have no additional changes and you're comfortable. That would be great. Anything else on your report there? No? All right, any questions for John at this time? And anything? No? Okay, well, we'll close out that item, and now we're to our final public comment. And I'll ask our clerk, anything in the room, anything online? Any comments about Andy or, anything? Okay. No? Okay. All right, seeing none, any final board comments or agenda requests for agenda items? Anybody? Nothing? No agenda items? Okay. All right, well, with that, I will declare us adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Okay. All right.
Recording stopped.